Welcome to Thriver TV, the place to break free from narcissistic abuse with quantum tools and understandings. So this week's Thriver TV show is an important one because narcissists are very, very good at making people like them. Most of them are very high functioning and they're brilliant at appearing normal, cordial and decent. And this can spell disaster for anyone else. When the abuse starts and people look at you like you've got two heads when you're trying to explain it to them. And people outside of your relationship say, but he's such a good guy. And you can see them thinking, why is she so ungrateful? And of course, this is not gender specific. Many people outside of the family home love the narcissistic woman because she's so accommodating, hospitable and charming, and she's always there to help anyone in need. Plus, she's a marvellous hostess usually. So how can they believe you when you are bearing the brunt of narcissistic torment behind closed doors? And I know that you might feel so alone and powerless in regard to how the narcissist is hoodwinking everyone else, and no one but you sees the truth. But I promise you, just as I did, there is a way to heal all of this and then be validated and supported by life and people beyond measure. And this all comes about as a result of how you're able to turn this around inside yourself for yourself first. But before we do this, the trauma of the street angel, home devil persona of the narcissist is intense for people being abused. Because not only do you feel isolated and misunderstood, you also seriously start to doubt yourself. And of course, you're going to question whether it is you, in fact, who is the cause of all the problems. And you may even start to feel like I must be imagining it. And am I losing my mind? Yet we are certainly experiencing abuse and trauma at levels we thought we would never go through, which leaves us anxious, traumatized, and intensely depressed and struggling to function in everyday life. So how do we get people to see what is happening to us? The truth is, for a while we don't. How do we get people to realize who the narcissist is? We can't, because by trying to do this, we will in fact only incriminate ourselves with people further. Which, by the way, is vital to understand if you're trying to warn your kids or get your kids to understand who the other parent is. How do we get people to support us and help us heal? We can't and we don't. And rather than think this makes it all hopeless and you totally helpless, it is in fact the exact opposite. And I want you to realise that all of this is in perfect and divine order. And as I go through this deep dive into this topic with you, you'll understand why. So I want to first of all talk about how and why the narcissist is such a great actor. And then as always, which is what I do, I want to bring the power and the healing back squarely to ourselves. The narcissist is a false self, which means that he or she is a consummate actor, a charade, being whoever is required at the time to get narcissistic supply in the most efficient and effective way. And from a very early age, narcissists know that to get attention and stuff, which means resources, time, accolades, contacts, wealth, sex, whatever it is that's required to fill the deep black hole inside them, which no matter what it gets will never feel durably whole or at peace. They know that people need to like and trust them. And it's all to do with payoff. It's all to do with agenda. It has nothing to do with true unconditional giving, which is this. I give for the sake of giving. And at the true quantum level, giving is this. By giving to another, I'm actually giving to myself because we are all one. And that's why it feels so genuinely good to do this. Because at the quantum level, we are giving to ourselves. However, many people don't operate at this level, and many people may do favours and good gestures to create a favour bank with others. Yet narcissists take it a step further. They do it to get attention, acclaim, compliments, accolades. They do it for narcissistic supply. They do it so that they can emotionally survive, because getting energy from the outside is so much better than the energy that they're experiencing on the inside, because that energy is self-annihilating. It's full of the terrible, devastating emotions of shame and being defective and unacceptable. And attention from the outside, which has to come through people, is required as the temporary, ongoing, always necessary buffer to offset the narcissist's inner being, which is constantly threatening to eat them alive. And this is why you may be horrified to realise that the narcissist is so much more interested in being wonderful to all and sundry than granting their own children and family decency, let alone devotion, service and care. The reason being, there isn't enough narcissistic supply from being able to be extracted from giving to one's family. It's generally expected that a father, mother, husband or wife or a partner will be caring, responsible and contributes to his or her loved ones, and isn't going to get a red carpet rolled out complete with a fanfare every time they do something for somebody else. In fact, healthy people get great joy from giving to their family and making the people they love feel supported and special. But a narcissist simply isn't wired that way. And you may be horrified as to how childish and entitled and demanding they are when they demand your recognition for something that you've done, way past desiring your healthy gratitude. And of course it's nice to say thank you within the family and be grateful, but the narcissist wants your accolades. Sorry, he or she wants accolades and power and your total acknowledgement, without, of course, acknowledging any of the things that you do. The bottom line is there is nowhere near enough narcissistic supply involved for the narcissist to engage for real in family contribution. He or she will at times pull out all stops for an agenda within the family and all of a sudden be that caring, giving, wonderful person. But it's not real and it doesn't last. These times are only when hoovering, such as rehooking with a spouse when he or she attempts to leave the narcissist, or will be for another agenda. The bottom line is the narcissist must exert energy for a payoff. It's a delicate balance between energy expended in order to receive the narcissistic drug, narcissistic supply. If a narcissist gets cornered to do things for the family and can't get out into the world to hunt more appropriate narcissistic supply, the narcissist is precariously and dangerously pulled inwards to his or her self-annihilating inner being and will become low on supply, depressed, manic and seething. Then he or she will need to get narcissistic supply another way. And this is when the people closest to the narcissist, who try to make narcissists behave like a normal person, someone who does give, contribute, comply and be a part of a team, will then be lined up and battered mercilessly. Now the narcissist has switched from hunting positive supply to striking out for negative narcissistic supply. It's not about the accolades, adoration and acclaim now. It's about getting the feed of, I am powerful and valid because I can affect you this severely. It makes the narcissist feel significant and even omnipotent. The narcissist also temporarily feels vindicated because he or she has punished you for threatening their very emotional existence by trying to force them to be normal. So hopefully now you can understand why the narcissist is non-compliant, puts things off, doesn't finish things at home and gets so depressed, angry and nasty when forced to do tasks for you or the children. And in such a stark contrast, why they derive such pleasure and energy by putting themselves out diligently and consistently for other people outside of your four walls. So hopefully now you know that there is no way you're going to get the narcissist to change. He or she will always hunt narcissistic supply And unless you become a fawning fool, you are not that constant source. In fact, once past the honeymoon, you will regularly be the dump master to be beaten up and to project wounds onto and to attack and hurt. And even if you do become a fawning fool, you still at times are going to be the dump master, because you're having a relationship with somebody who's not interested in you in the slightest and simply never can be, because he or she only has the energy available to balance the delicate and necessary regulation of narcissistic supply for themselves. So this means we have to get out if we want the hope of a happy and a healthy life. So let's take it back to the start, when I said for a while, we're not going to get other people's support or them realizing who the narcissist is, and we're not going to get them to help us heal. And I also said that this was all in perfect and divine order. And the reason for this is because the reason that we were attracted to and attractive to and hooked into narcissists, even when their mask dropped, is because we were at that time underdeveloped emotionally. We did not have a whole, solid inner identity who could be an adult in our own body, healthily generating our own life. We were instead dependent, sourcing love, approval, survival and security through others' approval and their validation of us. And if people now, after being abused by a narcissist, got us, supported us and backed us, then the entire healing shift, the massive up-level opportunity of narcissistic abuse could never be claimed and actualized by us. And we would only be back at square one again, still broken, still susceptible, still dependent, and still being precariously prone to clinging on to people even when they're abusive. So here is the 100% necessity to become whole, self-actualized, non-dependent and clingy to people even when they hurt us, and able to steer our life healthily into self-generative, life-affirming relationships and easily walk away from ones that don't match up. It's this. We need to become to ourselves everything we want to receive from others. And please know, self-partnering is never about becoming an island. People may think, if I come home to heal myself and I don't need to get my wholeness from others, then I'll never need people ever again. That's true, and that is exactly what you want. And I know that sounds totally like a dichotomy, but it is true. Because when you are no longer empty and needy, and when you are whole, people, healthy, good, loving people will flood into your experience because you're already being a match for them. They match who you are in your inner identity, which is always what your outer life is going to look like. And you can accept these people and you can sustain relationships with them. Until then, that is not possible. And like my previous self, you are only a match for more empty and needy people. Narcissists being the big kahunas of these types of people. So here is the thing. This is about dropping the need for people to get who the narcissist is and back you and help you heal. And rather, it's about you doing that work on yourself. And then I promise you, the street angel, home devil thing in your experience will collapse on its head. Did in my world. Narcissist number one had others so convinced that he was wonderful and I was terrible. One of my family members used to go to his place after I'd escaped to do his ironing for him. My own son believed that I'd been having affairs behind everybody's backs. My best friend had joined forces with him and turned against me. Virtually every single person involved in my world who had believed him, once I self-partnered and fully committed to healing me, turned away from him and came back to me. And I didn't do anything at all to make this happen. And in fact, when it happened, I didn't even need it to happen, because I was already feeling the most organically whole I ever had in my life as a result of finally self-partnering and committing to releasing my inner trauma and growing myself up to become a healthy, whole person. And the people who were in his world as acquaintances, who were still convinced that he was wonderful, I couldn't care less about them. I was already at the stage of knowing that he was merely and magnificently a catalyst delivering me finally home to myself. And my healing actually had nothing to do with him anyway. So of course, in realities other than the one with me, of course he's going to continue on being the same, being this storm of trauma that will hopefully awaken others as well. And my life, now awakened, started to fill with more validation, love and approval than I'd ever known was possible. Tons more than even before I was abused. Because as the total key to make it happen, I finally become that to myself. So I hope that this episode has really helped if you've been suffering the street angel, home devil stuff that we all did and have. And please come over to the blog and join in the conversation with this, which is blog.melanietoniaevans.com. And until the next little video, that's it from me, from sunny Darwin. Lots of love. Bye-bye.